Lord Ahmad, may I say my friend? You know, when we met at the Commonwealth Heads of Government, I was so very impressed by, first of all, your understanding and compassion of the issue at hand at the time, being the Windrush situation, and your skillful mobilization, I believe, averted a crisis. And I want to use this platform to thank you. The people of Jamaica pay close attention to this Windrush issue. And we would want to say to you, Lord Ahmad, continue to press on our behalf for a resolution. And we have seen that the government of the United Kingdom is working towards a resolution. My friend, Lord Ahmad, thank you. His Excellency Martin Roper, Governor of the Cayman Islands. My friend, Alan, I don't have to say Premier McLaughlin. Our visiting heads of government from other overseas territories. My friend, the Honorable Makiva Bush. You remember when we first met, Makiva? Many, many years ago. Seems a long time. Oh, of course, back then I was just elected Member of Parliament, and I was a much younger man then. And I actually came to Cayman to a parliamentary conference. Ministers of government of the Cayman Islands, the Honorable Darrell Vaz, Minister of Government in Jamaica, who traveled with me as part of my delegation, members of Parliament from the United Kingdom, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, friends all, good morning. I consider it a distinct honor and a pleasure to join you in celebrating the 60th anniversary of the first written constitution of the Cayman Islands. I extend hearty congratulations to the government and people of the Cayman Islands on behalf of the government and people of Jamaica on achieving this significant milestone. Cayman's 1959 Constitution that we celebrate today, as well as Jamaica's 1962 Constitution, were key instruments that have helped to guide the development of our respective countries over the past half-century. Thankfully, our ties and mutual respect have ensured that our connections have deepened over the years, and because of the collaboration and bonds of friendship that those ties have become even stronger. I look forward to the strengthening of ties between our two countries. Mr. Premier, I am gratified by your efforts to incorporate the legacy between our two countries, and from what I've seen from a very quick review of the program of activities, I'm very happy to see the football match. Lord Ahmad will not be in goal. And I was invited to be the striker, but I had pity on them and I declined. And I was looking at the breakfast menu, and I noticed ackee and saltfish and boiled bananas. Alan, where's the dumpling? I believe can not only be proud of your constitution, your government, and your democracy, and the society that you've built, but I believe that you can all be proud of your economic achievements. I heard a clap was coming. Low unemployment, low and stable inflation, consistent growth above 2%. Sorry? Somebody said coalition? World-class infrastructure. And the highest per capita GDP in the region. You have right to be proud and to celebrate your achievement. And Jamaica celebrates with you, and we also take pride in your accomplishments. But I also want to share some good news with you. We are right behind you. You know, for many years, we wandered in the wilderness. We defied economic logic, and we pursued economic policies that were not necessarily the best policies. But that led us to a point of crisis. But, you know, the Chinese interpret crisis as opportunity. And the crisis of 2009, global recession, essentially created an opportunity for social consensus in Jamaica about our economic policies. Before then, our politics just would not allow social consensus around fiscal discipline. But in the face of crisis, consensus emerged. I want to make a point for Caymanians. You don't need to have crisis in order to have consensus. Good governance, strong civil society participation, strong media, strong parliament can reach consensus without crisis. And I believe that your society has demonstrated that. And the success of your society will rest on the continuation of that. I hope that was not too profound a point. Because the reverse is demonstrated in Jamaica's history, that an overbearing politics that's too concentrated and polarized oftentimes itself leads to crisis. But I'm not here saying that Jamaica is out of crisis, but Jamaica is recovering. Indeed, if you look at our GDP is just now returning to its 2009 levels, having gone through crisis. But we have some good news to report. You know, in 2013, our unemployment rate was 16%, and our youth unemployment was 32%. As of January this year, our latest figures show that our unemployment rate was 8%. Youth unemployment cut to 22%. In 2011, our debt to GDP was 150%, unheard of. I mean, Cayman Islands would panic. But that was our debt to GDP. Today, our debt to GDP is 98%. We now have the highest reserves in our history, over $3 billion in reserves. In 2013, we barely had 13 weeks of reserve to support imports. So we have started recovery to the point where for 2 years we have been rated as the best performing stock market in the world. We have the 4th best PPP, that is public-private partnership program, in the region. We recently divested one of our energy assets through a public offering on our stock exchange. It was massively oversubscribed. 31,000 Jamaicans bought stocks. This is a shift, a total shift in how the economy is operating. More Jamaicans, average Jamaicans, are participating in the economy. Great things are happening in our economy. But I'm not here saying that we are out of crisis. Many challenges and threats still exist. Our crime situation is indeed a challenge for our country and a threat to our economic success. But we will not be daunted. Jamaica has a very complicated social construct as it relates to treating with the issue of crime. Because much of crime in Jamaica is generated by poverty. But we also have an element to consider, and that is also violence, and what is almost a culture of violence. And so in treating with crime, it is not just policing, it's economy, it's schooling, it's parenting, it's the media and what it promotes. So it is a very complex mix of solutions that have to be preserved. But Lord Ahmad, the ultimate element that we will have to pay very close attention to is that there cannot be a trade-off with human rights in the fight against crime. So Jamaica has had to deploy emergency measures in the form of the declaration of a state of public emergency. But we have used this as a tool in an amazing way, because though it is clearly the mobilization of force, we have used force without violence, and there clearly has been no reports, locally or in the international media, of abuse of human rights in suppressing criminal activity in Jamaica. And I believe that that is also something that Jamaica can be proud of, along with our economic recovery. And I promise you that the next time that I'm addressing my friends and family in the Cayman Islands, the next statistics that I will put out regarding our crime situation will be a phenomenal reduction in murders in our country. But there are other threats. And yes, the crime situation creates a security threat which joins our two countries together. Lord Ahmad mentioned the Jamaica Defense Force. and our Coast Guard, and we do quite a bit of work, our two governments, in the interdiction of illegal trafficking in drugs, in contraband, and human trafficking. And we intend to intensify that collaboration to make our two countries safe. But the issue I wanted to mention to you this morning as a threat is one that we all hear about, we know it, and we see the effects of it: climate change. And there are some people who say, of course, climate changes every so often. Of course they believe in climate change. It's winter, summer, autumn, climate changes. But there are real impacts for climate change. A few inches rise in sea level could threaten significant coastal areas of your country. Indeed, a few inches rise in sea level could threaten critical infrastructure in Jamaica, for example, our airport. So for us, this is an existential threat. But the greatest threat that we face in the region would be hurricanes. But not just Category 1 or Category 2. What we're seeing is an increase in intense hurricanes, Category 5s, and coming in multiples, not just one passing through the region, but in multiples, hitting many islands at the same time. And I believe that that is the great catastrophe that we should prepare for as a result of climate changes. On Saturday last, I was in my office and I got a call, so I went outside. And yes, I do wear shorts and sleeveless marinas. And I felt a heat that I've never felt before. Minister Vaz came to see me, and we were discussing it. We said, wow, it's hot. And he reported to me that it was 102, 100 and more like, yeah, it was very hot. Of course, we are used to the heat, but it was incredibly hot. And then we reported the highest recorded temperature in France. And Lord Ahmad was telling me how hot it was a few days ago in London. So we are feeling the effects, no doubt. But we have to be prepared. It's not just sufficient for us to talk about it. We have to be prepared for it. And from Jamaica's perspective, we are getting prepared by ensuring that we have the necessary financial instruments to support recovery, such as catastrophe bonds. And I would recommend that all governments start to focus in their fiscal arrangements on recovery, because it is not if or when, it will happen. The other thing I would suggest, since I have the ears of government officials and important people, for the region, is that the last episode exposed a weakness in the response of the region. Several islands were hit at the same time, and the east coast of the United States was hit as well. Countries like Cayman, the British Virgin Islands, Dutch dependencies as well, French dependencies, French overseas territories, they probably can at some point rely on their home countries to respond. But a country like Dominica, formerly a British colony, was hit. Its entire economy was wiped out. There was no response for that country for almost 5 days. And during that period of time, the first threat, of course, was the breakdown of the rule of law. And all the assets in the region were all occupied in, BVI, in Turks, all over. But there was no asset available to respond to Dominica or Barbuda, for that matter. And I was discussing with Lord Ahmad just a while ago that there are efforts to improve our coordination of assets that are available. I think there has to be greater coordination, and we ourselves have to start investing in our own assets to be able to respond. And so we can't keep looking for outside of the region to be able to respond. So we have to make investments in our offshore vessels, in our airlift capacity, in our storage capacity, and in making arrangements prior to the events. Certainly in terms of where our response will be located, where our stocks of goods are located. So in celebrating our constitution, our democracy, our society, our strong economy, we should also be contemplating how do we ensure that this lasts for another 60 years, and therefore what are the threats that could affect it now, and start to prepare for that, because that is how we will be here 60 years from now, celebrating the 120th anniversary of our Constitution. So with those small points, and I hope not too profound, again, I want to congratulate the Cayman Islands and the people of Cayman who have been friends and family of Jamaica for over 300 years. And again, to congratulate the British government for its support, its contribution to the development of the Cayman Islands, and of course the people of Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, it was wonderful being with you.